All right. We will start again. We're in the middle of pursuing. The line starts with kuli, approximately 15 lines from the top. Memtes. The line before that is shaloh. The line afterwards is hamshocha. So we concluded thus far that the world, the whole Seder Hishtalshelus, is an aspect of ha'ora. It does not have a presence, a true presence. The whole Seder Hishtalshelus. This is why Seder Hishtalshelus is in the form of nimshach when you stay, nimshach when you stay. There's not one concrete presence. Well, his havas on the shomes, but the neshomes, the creation of the neshomes coming forth. Hagam shezehu b'bchinas yichud zum. Although this is in the aspect of yichud zum, shenikro zivu gufni, which is referred to and identified as zivu gufni, in contrast to zivug ruchni. And ruchnius, we know, is higher than gufnius. Like we always say, visibility is higher than tangibility. And the shomes and his hava from zivug gufni, which means from the tangible aspect of the spheres rather than the ruchnius. Hine, but yet still, ha-hamshocho, the hamshocho, the resultant hamshocho that comes as a result, the b'chinas yichud b'zivug zeh, that comes in this yichud and this zivug. Whole bechinas hashpoah pnimis v'yatzmiyus. It's an aspect that's called hashpoah pnimis, a hashpoah that has an internal reality, not only its message, but its internal reality. V'yatzmiyus. And atzmiyus, hashpoah atzmiyus means an essential reality. As we spoke many times, the concept, the principle of atzmiyus, there is no way that we can really define it and explain it. And the reason we cannot explain it is because it really does not exist in the world from the worldly perspective. Anything we can explain is within the worldly context. And in worldly context, atzmiyus doesn't exist. The world cannot create atzmiyus. Atzmiyus is going back all the way to the top, to the Motzurisha Mamtikal Yintz. The fundamental reality that we have no access, we have no way to explain. And it's beyond explanation. This is the first principle of existence.
What about Choshech?
Sorry?
What about Choshech?
Choshech?
Yeah.
Choshech is formed as a result of Gashmius. So that the message there, as we have it in the world, in the manifestation, is in the Gashmi element. It's a broad discussion, but just briefly, since you asked, the way we perceive choshech is, from a worldly perspective, choshech is the absence of light. Does not have its own present, and it does not have its own message. The absence of light. On the other hand, choshech is what came into being at the beginning of creation, before Oyer. And as a matter of fact, the pasuk says, Yoshes choshech sisrei, that in the Eibish's highest secret abode, so to speak, it is dark, not light. The only way for us to, at least what I found, to identify the significance of choshech and what it represents, where its message is, in human experience, for example, when you have light and you see all around yourself, therefore you recognize that there is a whole reality around you. You could see it. Not only you could see it, but this vision is substantiating it. It brings it into being. Look at it. Look what there is. In darkness, you don't see anything. In other words, functionally, in darkness there is nothing to identify. And yet, starting from the human perception, from the human neshama, a person does not get lost in the darkness. Actively, he cannot walk without carefully feeling his way. But he has not given up on there being a reality around him. Even though he doesn't see anything. He does not come to the conclusion, I don't see anything, therefore there is nothing there. And this Indian that therefore there is nothing there, and it says, no, there is something there, is not just a throwback to memory, so to speak. There is something there because I know there is something around me, because I've seen it. There is, I like it to follow this, there is a truth to this too, that I know there is something in the darkness because I've seen it in light. As we said many times, this Indian that I've seen it in light, this is not the end story, this is not what I know in the darkness. I've seen it in light, this is like we said many times, a trigger. This tells me that even in darkness there is something. It's not light dependent. It's not sight dependent. And it's not even touch dependent. Except, how does that idea, that sense, reach a person's mind? It is by this experience. Here I've seen the whole world. All of a sudden it's perfectly dark and there is nothing there. Therefore I know that being there is not defined by visibility. There is a reality to being there. This reality to being there is not just a proof, I have an argument, but a person as we're going to see the neshamas, he relates to that reality. This is what we said many, many times, that there's the phenomenon that we do not get lost even if we are lost. Or if we are lost, we don't know exactly where to go and how we're going to get out of it. But the reality remains. You with me?
I'm just. Are you explaining why darkness is not an essential?
I'm explaining, yes, that darkness too is not just an absence of light. There is it's an expression of a deep reality. That the reality is not dependent on observation, on proof, on experience.
That's pointing to the real essence.
We realize it. I don't know which realization you're referring to. I said, we always say, step back for a moment, that sightless is missing the sense of the reality of the real world. But if somebody was sighted, I'd seen, and then he lost his sight, then he still retains the reality of the world. He still knows that it's real. Now this Indian, he knows that it's real, is not simply because he remembers having seen it, but because having seen it touched a certain chord, a certain essential point in his nefesh. Like we all understand. Every human being understands that a person, God forbid, is totally incapable of any achievement, of any activity. He's still alive. And his life is precious. Every moment of that life. What's in it? It's the essence of life. And why is this essence of life precious? Because life is a representative of the essence of truth, of the godly truth. Even though there is totally dark, there's nothing there, there's no manifestation of any kind. So this is the principle which says darkness. And essentially, Atzmos actually is more represented in darkness than in light. Not, God forbid, because of darkness, but because it's such a truth that you can't see it. It's beyond observation. All right, let's continue.
You started off saying that there's no way to explain
Etzem.
Yeah, then came the question of what
Then came the
about
question of what about darkness.
I don't know.
Okay, that was something that was bothering you for a long time. So I allowed that to intrude. But essentially what I want to point, Atzmis. Etzem, by definition, means that it is representative of something that does not have a source. It is there in and of itself, which is called Motzui Risha. Motzui Risha is Motzui, it's only one Motzui Risha. But then this Motzui Risha, he provided all Nitzoim. And because all Nitzoim come from this Motzui Risha, that means that all Nitzoim have an element of this truth. They are there not because of some kind of a circumstance. They're there because the Motzui Risha wants them to be there. and gives them an Atzmius presence. This Atzmius presence manifests itself in many specific moments. He says it does not manifest itself in Seichel, in Zivug Ruchni, because Zivug Ruchni has a Ha'ora presence. In other words, has a visible presence, definable presence, and therefore it's not based on the Etzem. Zivug Gufni, as we explained, Gufni means that there is a givug between two entities that remain two separate entities. Not like in Zivug Ruchni that one is absorbed from the other. They remain two separate entities. And one is mashpia to the other. This kind of a zivug, this kind of union, this kind of beacon is due to the fact that they both are incorporated, come from the etzem. It represents an etzem truth. And therefore the hashpah therein is hashpah pnimis ve'atzmis. Okay, I think enough said. There's more we can say, but I think at this moment we'll leave it at that. Ukmoy, and the additional thing that we can say is it's coming right up in my mind. Ukmoy, as in the case al derech Moshe, for example, ba'ashpoaz hatipo lehoilid b'doy maloi. Ba'ashpoaz hatipo lehoilid b'doy maloi. So the point here is the hashpah is a tipo, a physical tipo. There is not any sense of what this person stands for, what his beliefs and so forth, and what he lives with. Physical tipo, representing only that he exists, essentially. Not how he functions. He exists. This is what we mentioned, and there are the 10 koiches of starting from Chochmah on down, and Chochmah particularly is really a phenomenal thing. But nevertheless, it's only Ha'ora. Where is the true existence of the person? Is in the higher koiches Ma'kifim or Inaganotz. And this is where the Hashpah HaTipa comes from. And what is the result of this? Lohoili b'doy meloi. What is the additional word b'doy meloi? Lohoili, to give birth. What does b'doy meloi represent? B'doy meloi, his likeness. The principle that it's his likeness, this is what goes all the way back to the Atzmius. It is not merely that something happens. There is an overall reality. Something happens. No, it is not something that happens. It is something that represents his essence that happens. B'doy maloi, which shows that there is a truth to this essence. Okay, there's more to speak about it, but I think this is not a difficult thing to recognize. Shenimsar bozeh, wherein this is drawn, mibchinas atzmus ho'av, from the bechina of atzmus ho'av, the essence of the av. We'll try to define that. And the Rebbe does, but then we have to define what the Rebbe is saying. Mekoyach ha-seichel ha-hiyuli ho-atzmi. You're talking about etzem, and then all of a sudden we're going back to seichel. So to define these few words, the etzem is higher than seichel. The etzem, as we said, this is the kochis makifim or rotzon ha'olik. This is how the etzem is manifest. But then, rotzon ha'olik can very well stay put where they are. They are perfectly satisfied where they are. What brings it out to create further? This is the seichel. This is the fact that these koiches further emanate into seichel. What is seichel? Seichel means awareness of these koiches. Like we said before, the chokhmah is the awareness of the truth. Now, in awareness, in koich ha-seichel, there are two distinct levels. There are many distinct levels, but it's alluded to over here, two distinct levels. The conscious seichel, and koich ha-seichel ha-hiyuli. Ha-hiyuli means the way the seichel is on the essential level. Let's try to kind of focus in. Again, we are talking at the level that's called ha-yuli ha-atzmi. There's no tangible element with which we can approach it. But we have to understand the following. There is awareness that comes as a result of some kind of experience. Like we said before, he saw, therefore he knows that there is such thing as sight. Even though it's a very fine thing, but still there is some kind of an experience. We said quite a little while ago that an etzem that is not aware of itself is not an etzem. Why is it not an etzem? It is an essential, a rock. Why is a rock not an etzem? And this is why we say that only Atzmus, this is real Atzmus. What is unique about the Atzmius of Atzmus? A rock is an Etzem because it does not have any sensitivities. It's totally unaware of anything. Therefore, its atzmius element is what we call a relative atzmius. In the Itzias of the world, it does not have anything but itself. But what is there any point in its being? Is an essential point in its being? It doesn't say anything. It doesn't have any meaning, any significance. So it's an atzmi because you've stripped it, because it's stripped of any sensitivity, of any activity. It's only, so to speak, reflective of atzmos, but this is not atzm. Atzm means that from every angle it is an atzmi. It is there by virtue of the truth of its own being. That's my atzm. Do we perceive that idea? As we said many times, etzem means it could not be. What could not be? In our tangible world, there is nothing like that. Okay, I have to leave it on this because there is much to be said on this. But the point that I wanted to, that we should focus in and think about it. Seichel hiyuli atzmo. Seichel means awareness. And awareness means that it's an external thing. But this is a seichel that has no trigger. This is awareness. The reason is awareness because this is an atzmi. Because it's fundamental truth. That's why there is an awareness. And that's why it's called hiyuli ho'atzmi. This seichel comes from the fact that it's an atzmi, not because he knows something. And we have to interrupt. Called it. Now, gentlemen, there is a little problem, and whoever is online.
Yeah.